Dish with the foil on it and the refrigerator is the rest of the spaghetti. Okay, if we start hearing a whistling and we're like, what is that? It's the purple thing.
If you're wondering what's going on in this video, it's been a silent movie. But if you watch carefully to what I've been doing, you'll see how I do my research to find a woman's husband on the internet. I'm not going to talk very much, so just watch and learn. Thank you. You'll notice that when I was on Ancestry.com, I looked first for Retta Elizabeth Finley. I looked down these options. These two are her here. The others aren't. None of these are her. But when I got to this, I realized this is the same person. I know that her nickname was Reddy. So I clicked on this, and automatically I see that it's the same person. The dates for Retta are correct. This is her husband. So I saved the picture, this information, and then what you're looking at here is we're going to what's called a family group sheet in a family tree that was put in by some person who is a member of Ancestry.com. Up here is right here's the name of the person. This is a username that they create that hides their identity. Sometimes people put their real name in here, but most people don't. And this is where I got his information. Then I can come down here and double check Retta's whenever it opens. I know that her true legal name is Retta Elizabeth, so I put Retta in the tree here, my family tree and pedigree and family group sheets. That's what I put her in as. Now that I put her husband's information in, it's asking me to add the marriage event to this couple. And it won't complete adding her husband, Louis Alexander, until I do that, or until I click on one of these. I'm going to go back to the family group sheet in this family tree that was downloaded or typed in by whoever Lady Molt 822 is. It's a person who's a distant relative of mine, some distant cousin. So I'm going to see if over here in the life facts there's actually some kind of a marriage. This is the life facts over here on the timeline. I don't see a marriage entered here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at their first kid. And their first child was born in 1902. Okay? So most people got married in those days. They didn't live together and have children. So I can suppose probably that they were married before 1902. Most people also didn't get pregnant and have children before they were married. So I can presume up till the 1940s or 50s, most people got married before they had children. So I can presume they were probably married sometime 9 to 12 months before 1902. I'm going to click on this person and see if there's a month. This person was born on May 29th, 1902 in Missouri. If that's correct, that's about almost 6 months into the year 1902. So I can go back 3 months before that, and I can probably safely say her parents were probably married before October 1st of 1901, sometime around there. I can guess that. Now, I know for a fact that in the 1900 census, they usually put what the year was that they were married. So I'm going to go to this 1900 census and open it for Reddy Elizabeth. I'll view the record first. And it says here that Reddy wasn't married yet. She was still with her father, David, mother, Louise, and she was single. So if I open this picture of the 1900 U.S. Federal Census in Pleasant Valley, Wright County, Missouri, and then I increase the magnification so I can see better, I'm going to go to when the census was taken. At the top here, we see the date, 9 June 1900. So we know that Retta Elizabeth Finley was not yet married on the 9th day of June 1900. We also know that she probably was married before she became pregnant in September or October of 1901. So we're looking at about a little over a year's time in between when she probably got married. So I'm just going to put in, as a guess, 1901. Now, if you want to be more specific, you could put maybe May. So I'm going to just put May 1901. Now, she was living in Pleasant Valley, Wright County, Missouri on June 9th, 1900. Now, if we go back here, we see in the family tree that Redith May Moody was born on the 29th of May, 1902. I'm going to go to the 1910 census, and it says that they were in Eden Payne, Oklahoma. That's where she and her family were. Lewis, the dad, and Reddy, the mom. Okay? So I'm going to think about it. She was born in 1902 in May in Missouri, it says, on the family tree. But in 1910, she was living with her family in Eden, Payne County, Oklahoma. So I'm going to presume that Redith May Moody was probably born in Wright County, Missouri. So I'm going to put that in for where her parents were married. I'm going to put Wright County, Missouri. Now, I know these are not backed up by evidence, but by civil records, but I deduced these date and place from the civil records. These are ways you can come up with an about date. I don't put the word about anymore. They used to do that in family history and genealogy, but I don't do that anymore. It often messes up the programs that you put your information in, so I don't use that. Now, if you would like, you can always put a note here under the marriage and type in marriage date and place deduced from civil. I don't think I spelled deduced right there. Deduced from civil records. And that just reminds you that if you can, perhaps in the future you should look for the correct date and place. But I'm going to tell you that I'm probably 80 to 90% correct. Since I've done this for many years, I usually find that I'm correct by using this way of deduction, if you want to call it, or reasoning to come up with information so that you can get people's work done. So now I have Retta done. I already know that her work's done. Now I'm going to go to her husband by clicking that red arrow. You'll notice that she's not been transferred to Family Search database yet, or but she has. So are her parents. I'm going to click on this green arrow over the temple, go to Find Matches, and I see that in Family Search there's already information entered by somebody else that gives me pretty much the correct information that I found. This gives a different place of death, but that's okay. And then the correct wife. Didn't put his middle initial or middle name, but that's okay. There's enough correct information here for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to do the temple work. So I'm going to click on this box, and I'm going to match my information in my pedigree family group record with the Family Search information. Once I've done that, it'll tell me how many ordinances were done for Louis Alexander Moody. This 0 here tells me that I don't need to do any ordinances. If I click on Share Data, I can either share what they've put over here in Family Search or what I have with Family Search. I have his full name, so and I know that's correct. I'm going to replace what's in Family Search. I'm just going to put that as yes, you can replace. And then I'm going to also replace the birth information because I have more than Family Search. And this will make our two records match and merge. Now, I believe from what I've looked up, this man was what died in California, but I don't know that for sure. So I'm just going to leave mine like that and theirs like that. It says here he was buried in Wright, Missouri. So it's possible that he died there. I don't know for sure, but he's dead, and that's the way I'm leaving it for now. This information here shows where on different censuses where he may have been living at the time. This is probably correct. That he had a World War I military draft registration card. The reason I know it's World War I is the dates here. And in the United States didn't get involved in World War II with active duty military people until 1917 and 1918, and that's when the draft was done. And he was in Wagner County, Oklahoma, which that's a place where I have a lot of relatives. Now, I don't know for a fact that Louis Alexander Moody's parents are David and Mary. But for now, I'm just going to close this. These are the children. And all of these children could get their temple work done now, if it hasn't already been done. Let me close this. And I'm going to find, on my own, I'm going to look up in the civil records who their children are. And that's just the way I do it, right? Because I'm not going to transfer through Family Search over to my Roots Magic because I want to look it up myself to make sure the information on these children is correct. I'm not going to trust what's in the Family Search. All right. Why? Because it's easier to do it the way I'm doing, to double check. That's just the way I do it. You can do it the way you want. Okay, I'm going to go back to this Ancestry.com family group sheet record in the family tree of Lady Mulp 822. And I'm going to open up Lewis again so that I have him and his wife Retta and their children. Now, looking at this, it says they have a Redith May Moody and Edna Marie Moody, and that's probably the same person, these two. Don't know why there's two, but it's the same person. David Moody, 1906, David G. Moody, same person. And then we have Clifford and Clifford G. Once again, the same person, entered twice for some reason, possibly by more than one person. We have a Claire Cletus Moody, a Howard L. Moody, and a Quentin E. Moody. Now, the best way to find out if these people were really their children, this is, we have births between 1902 and 1920. So you want to go up here to the 1910 census for Louis Alexander Moody and his wife, Retta Elizabeth Finley, and see if there were any children listed on this census. I'm going to go to the view record first. Scroll down, and we have Lewis here spelled differently than what's in the family tree of that lady, but that's okay. Looks like a lot of the records are spelled both ways. And in the United States, it's spelled both ways. The best place to check probably is going to be a gravestone, which might be on Find a Grave if they actually have a photograph, or one of the military records that he would have filled out, because he would have done that in person. And because the federal law required that he be present unless he was sick or disabled, and then he could send a family member, such as a parent, to go and actually register for him in the draft, okay? And usually the parent would know how to spell his or her child's name correctly. Even if they didn't know how to read and write, they usually knew how to spell their names, usually. I'm going to go to the U.S. World War I draft registration because he would have been very young and probably appeared in person. So I open up the card, picture of the card. It's either scanned or photographed from the original microfilm that was done of these images. I'm going to make it a little smaller so you can see it better. And we see that either he wrote Lewis, Lewis, and we can verify that down here with the signature, or somebody else wrote it for him and he probably told him how to spell it. And if he could write, this is his signature. If not, it was signed by the registrar for the draft, but this doesn't have an X over the line. So that probably means that Lewis Moody signed this. The signature looks very much like the handwriting, so I'm presuming that the handwriting, what I mean by that is the script or handwritten signature here, cursive. And he wrote partly in print and partly in cursive. So we can verify his birth date, November 1st, 1879. Make this just a little bigger here. He didn't give a place of birth. It doesn't ask either for this particular census. I'm sorry, it didn't ask for this particular record. Some draft card registration records will have that information on there for both World War I and World War II. Some don't. They had several different types of draft card registration documents, and so it depends on which one your ancestor filled out. Another thing we notice at the bottom here is whoever filled this out wrote Mrs. Reddy E. Moody is the nearest relative by name, and then we have an address here. And a signature. If this is his signature, what I like to do is make it real big like this. And then I do a print screen of it so that I have an image of my ancestor's signature or autograph that I can put on in a document. Now, I probably won't be able to ever get that card. I don't know that they even still have the cards somewhere in files, but I'm under the impression that they took photographs and scanned images of these documents and then destroyed them. But I don't know that for a fact. And there may have been more than one of these filled out in more than one area. So I don't know for sure about that. But this is how I keep an image so that I can see what his handwriting was like. And he's a distant cousin. All right, now I'm going to reduce this and make it smaller again. And sometimes I'll push FN and then F11. And what that does is it gives me the full screen. Gives me more space for the image. And then I'll do a print screen of this by doing Control Print Screen for this laptop. Then I go and push FN, F11 again to go back so that I can save this image in my document in Microsoft Word. And this is the entire front and back of Lewis Alexander Moody's World War I registration card, at least this particular copy of it. And this is a digital image if you want it. You'll also notice in the registration cards on the back is a description of Lewis Alexander Moody's height. It says he was tall. His build or his body size was medium. The color of his eyes were blue and the color of his hair was brown. And he did not have any physical disqualifications like damage to his body parts or eyes or any brain damage or any kind of retardation or brain disabilities. No fingers lost, no arms, legs, hands, or eyes. That would go here. And then this is the person that actually took the information, that signed it, and it tells you when. He went to register for the draft by September 12th, 1918. And when I mean he, I mean Lewis Alexander Moody. And then down here it tells you where he actually registered for the draft, in a county office in the county of Wagoner in the state of Oklahoma. Okay. Now, I would come back by pushing the back button or clicking it and come to save and put this in my shoebox, my Ancestry.com archive or file where I save stuff. And so we're probably 100%, well, maybe 99% sure that Lewis spelt his name Lewis. Now, you may ask, well, why is it spelled Louis in these two censuses and on this record? Well, it's because somebody probably said his name was Lewis Moody, but didn't tell him how to spell it. So whoever wrote Lewis Moody in these census records and in this Social Security record wrote it incorrectly because they didn't ask how to properly write it or they weren't paying attention. Okay, I'm looking down through the different possible records for this guy. Here's a Lewis Moody with a death record. I want to open that and see. Okay, this is him because he died in 1954 in December. So I'm going to click on this and just save it. I don't really need it, but I just want to have it. Now I'm going to click back all the way to my family tree that I found. And I'm going to go to the 1910 census again. View record. So we pretty much verified all the information for Lewis, how to spell his name. And the reason I'm coming back to the census is to check if he had any kids. And here we notice, even though their names are misspelled, Redith Moody is there, Edna, David, and Clifford. Now I'm going to click and go backwards again, back to the family tree. And I see there's a Redith, Edna, David, and a Clifford here between 1902 and 1910. These other children, Claire, Howard, Quentin, are born between 1911 and 1920. So I will need to go to the 1920 census to verify if they are if they actually had Claire, Howard, and Quentin as children. So I'll go up here, click on 1920, go to View Record, and I will go down and see that we have a Redith, Edna, David, Clifford, Clara, Howard, and an Everett. So let's go back. Everett G, it says. Let's click back and check the names of these children again. Here we have a Claire Cletus, and they claim it was a boy, a Howard, and a Quentin E. So it's possible that rather than Everett G, it's Everett Q Moody, her last child, and they may have misread or may have misspelled the name Claire. So I'm going to go back to the census record by clicking back. I think it's going back to the census record. If not, I'll just go back. Okay, I don't know what's going on with my computer, so I'm going to go back here and go to the 1920 census this way. And I'm going to open the image so I can read it with my own eyes and see if I can tell what the spelling is better than the person who transcribed the document here. I'm going to make it bigger. This is very good handwriting. I don't think it should be a problem reading this. So we have Clara C as a son, it says. I've never heard of a man named Clara. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a print screen of this image. Thank you. Right here. And I'm going to make it small enough so I can include the names, who these people are in relation to the head of the house, their ages, their genders, their ethnicity or race, their marital status, some other information like where they were born. All right. Now I'm going to do print screen of this image and put it into my document. I'm doing this so that I can keep a record of the sources so I don't have to keep going back and looking them up in Ancestry later if I have to go back and use this information. Thank you. Ooh, we're having herbal tea and cookies during this video. Delicious. Okay. So it says Clara C is a son, and it says M as in male. And I'm wondering about that myself, whether or not that's correct. So what I'm going to do is go back to the record that has been transcribed. And as I've told you in the past, you'll notice that these names are not only transcribed, but they can also be clicked on. And when you do that, you will get the specific information for this individual that they transcribed from the 1920 census. Also on the right-hand side over here will be suggestions of other possible civil records or documents or photographs that the computer that works or the algorithm that works in Ancestry.com believes are attached to Clara C. Moody. And what I'm trying to do right now is determine if Clara C. Moody is a Claire, C-L-A-I-R, and is a male, as it says in the census transcribed information, or if it's a girl. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, by clicking on this name, I'm hoping it will open up a 1930 census for this individual over on the right-hand side. Now, what I'm getting here is a California Death Index, Social Security application information, an actual Find a Grave Index, which might have a photograph of the gravestone, a World War II draft card and so I'm starting to believe that this is a man, but on the 1920 census they wrote Clara for some reason, or it was just a mistake by misspelling, because they do have that it's a son and a male. So from all this information, I'm going to go to the 1930 census if I can find one for him, and I don't see it for some reason. But all these other attached records show me that this is a man. And I'm going to go to the Find a Grave real quick and see if, yes, there is a photograph of the headstone for this grave. And I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And sure enough, this was a private first class in the U.S. Army. Now, it's true that nowadays we have women who are privates in the Army, but back then they didn't generally have people in the military that were women. So I'm going to presume that this is a man, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So I'm going to go back to this information that was typed in by somebody on Find a Grave. There's really not anything else here. So I'm going to close this, go back to the sources on Ancestry. I'm going to click California Death Index. All right. This says Claire Cletus Moody, gender male, born 6 August 1911, Oklahoma, 26 February 1980, death, and death place was in Fresno, and mother's maiden name, it says Fidley, and that may be just that they misread that. It might have been written in a way they couldn't read the N, or they forgot to write the N, but that's probably Findley, and we know for a fact that this person's mother was, her maiden name was Finley. So I'm pretty sure this is the person I'm looking for. So I'm going to save this information like this. And then I'm going to take a print screen of it. And the reason I'm doing that is this is one of the more important documents that I want to save to prove that this is a guy, even though it reads Clara, C-L-A-R-A, which is, as far as I know, I've never heard of a man named Clara. But it is possible, and that's why I'm going through all these other records to try to figure out if this is really a man or a woman. Now I'm going to go to the World War II draft card. And at that time, as far as I know, the draft was only for combat people. Okay, now I think there may have been some medical people that were involved there that would have also applied for the draft, but I'm not sure if any women ever did that. I'm pretty sure, at least in World War I and World War II, there was no drafting of males for combat. So I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be a man. Well, I see here it says Claire Cletus Moody, male, 29, and it gives us the birth date again. Tells us more about where he was born instead of just Oklahoma. Gives us the town of Stillwater. And then when he signed up for the draft here, he was actually in Tulare, California. And it says he worked for Exeter Fruit Association, which was in the town of Exeter, California. Gives us some more about his physical description. His weight was 160. He was 5'6". It says his complexion was sallow. I don't know what that means. So there you go. But it's sallow, blue eyes, and brown hair. And his mother was Reddy Moody. And that is correct. So I'm going to save this here like that. And then I'm going to reduce the size of this screen down to 80% so that I can take a print screen of this whole thing. And it looks like I can't. So I'm going to have to put it back to 100 and take 2 screenshots. I'll just take the top first and save it in my document. And this is my final source that I'm going to look at, because this is 3 or 4 different sources that tell me that this is a man. So I'm not worried about what his gender is anymore. It's pretty obvious he was a guy. And somebody wrote Clara, and that was probably a misspelling, or they misunderstood the person that told them the name of the child. But I'm not worried about that anymore. I know it's Claire, C-L-A-I-R, and that is a man's name as well as a girl's. It's not a very common men's name even today. But I do know for a fact that most people called Cletus, C-L-E-T-I-S, especially at this time, back in the before 1950, was a man's name. So now I'm going to go to Roots Magic, and I see that all the children so far that we have on this this Ancestry.com family tree are correct. Now I want to go back to the last child that they have. And I went to the 1920 census, and they have here as the last child, Everett G. Moody, who was not yet 1 year of age. I know Howard's correct. So I'm going to open up the picture of 1920 census again and see if this is an Everett G or an Everett Q. And I will blow up this image so it'll be bigger. And I see that the handwriting is very, very clear. It says here, Everett G. Okay? I have no idea why they would have put that. So we have to do the same thing we did with Claire Cletus. I'm going to go to the 1930 census by clicking down here on the name Everett G. Moody. The suggested documents that the algorithm in Ancestry.com has provided show all Everett Qs. So we only have one record where it says Everett G, and that's on the 1920 census. And even though it is written where I can see that it's actually a G, it is either the person who wrote that thought it was a Q, that's their version of Q, or they misunderstood that it's Everett Q, not Everett G. So we go up here again, just like I did earlier. First thing I want to do is open the Find a Grave index to look at the gravestone. And we see if we open a picture here, there's Everett Quentin Moody, a picture of him and his wife probably later on in their lives. I'm not sure when that is, but here we have some typed in information. It says Moody Everett Q, gravesite services for Everett Q Moody, 83 of Exeter, will be at 10 a.m. Wednesday. This must have come off of his obituary. So I'm starting to see that it's Everett Q. And then we have a picture here. This is just the flat part that was carved on the headstone. Somebody took a picture of it and then they cropped it. So here we've got Everett Quentin Moody. Very obvious that it's a Q. And I just blew up the picture to make it look bigger. So here it is. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a print screen of this image and put it in my document as evidence that it wasn't Everett G, but it was Everett Q as their youngest child so far. And then if you noticed back on the record in the family tree, they actually have two other children listed, but they list them as private, meaning they didn't want to put the name because they may be alive, so they're protecting their privacy. Here's two more children, probably born either in 1920 or after. But so far, up to 1920, we can find that they did have 7 children, as listed here in the family tree. So I know that's correct. I also know now that it's Claire Cletus, which is written here, so that's correct. And it's Quentin E. If you look at the image here on his stone, it's actually Quenton. That could have been misspelled by accident. So I'm going to go and look at some more documents on Everett Quentin Moody. Go backwards, click on this, and that causes the computer to give us some suggestions. And the next record I'm going to go to is his World War II draft card record, because usually they probably interviewed him personally. And here we have the spelling Quentin. So now we're starting to wonder how you really spell this name. Okay? The gravestone says T-O-N instead of T-I-N, but this document says T-I-N. So the question is, how do we spell it? So we're still going to look at some other records and see. I'm going to save this document for further research at another time if I need it. Here we have a Social Security application, and this is his, where he would have probably filled this out, or his wife. This was after his death, so it was probably his wife or child or something. It looks like it's going to be with a T-O-N. Not sure why they think it's T-I-N. And then we have this information to verify the parents also. This particular application also verifies his birth date, his death date, his birthplace. And it says here that before he died, he made a claim on July 6, 1974. And that may be from him retiring. If you add 1919 to 65, you're going to get, let's see, 65. Looks like he was 55 when he made this claim. It doesn't say why, though. But this gives me a source that verifies a lot of information about Everett Quentin. I'm going to go ahead and put him down as spelling his name with a T-O-N at the end. That's my decision at this point, especially because of the gravestone. They do make mistakes carving gravestones, okay, but it's very rare, and usually there'll be some kind of story in the family history that it's misspelled, and I didn't find one of those, so that's what I'm going to enter him as when I spell his name. Okay, let's go back to Roots Magic and start putting in the children that we know the information for. So I click on that, add a new person, and we'll go back to our family tree. And here we go. And we'll go to the oldest child named Edith. It's like they took Edith and Retta and put them together. They got Edith. And I'm just going to copy and paste Edith May. Go down here, and we already have Moody in there because her father is listed as Moody. Come over here and click female. I'm going to unclick living because she's probably dead. I think I saw that she was. Yes. So I'm going to get this information here, copied and pasted for her into her birthday. It says that she was born in Missouri. So I'm going to copy her death date, paste that in here. Then I'm going to type Missouri. Click on this one. And it says she died in Tulare County, California. And I'm just going to copy and paste Tulare in here. And that should open up the whole thing. And I'll add United States. And this is all I'm going to put for her for now. Go to the next child. So this is how I do research for, if I have a woman already in there and I need to find her husband, you see how I got her husband's information, how I verified it, and how I entered it into the family tree, and then how I figured out most of their children, 7 of the 9, and how I verified them by using civil records, and I went back and forth until I got to enough civil records that proved to me how I spelled things correctly, how I spelled the places correctly, how I discovered the proper dates, or at least as close as possible to the correct dates. So you can use that information while you're doing your research for your ancestors. And I thank you very much for watching this this video. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, researching your roots on YouTube, and you like this video and others that I have, please give me a thumbs up on my videos, and please subscribe to my channel. It will very much help me to eventually, after I get 1,000 subscribers and the necessary 4,000 plus views on my channel, and it'll allow me to get advertising on my videos from YouTube so that I can make some money as a part-time income. Right now, I'm unemployed for almost 3 years, and I've just been working part-time and odd jobs. Thank you very much. And if you really want to know how to research your roots, please keep watching, because I have many things that I've learned that I will add to videos in the future. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section of the videos, or contact me personally at familygoins@aol.com, all lowercase letters. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. Bye.